The first shell fell just after dawn, shaking the dust from the rafters of the old stone orphanage. The children inside barely flinched anymore. What had once drawn screams was now as normal as the morning bell they no longer had. The war had stolen that too. Sister Amelie stood at the tall window, her trembling fingers clasped around the wooden cross at her throat. She had been awake long before the explosion. She always was these days, listening for the subtle shift in artillery rhythm that told her whose guns were warming for a barrage. She could tell the difference between French and German shells the way a mother could distinguish her children's footsteps. Behind her, small voices stirred. "Is it close today?" a boy asked, rubbing sleep from his eyes. His name was Henri. 8 years old. Or maybe 9. He wasn't sure anymore. "Not too close," Amelie lied gently. "But we should go to the cellar for a little while." The children gathered what few belongings they had, small wooden toys, a threadbare blanket, a bundle of letters with no return address. They moved as a flock, quiet, instinctive. War had taught them to stay together. Another shell landed, closer this time. The floorboards trembled. The youngest girl, Lucienne, clung to Amelie's skirts. The door burst open. A man stumbled inside, his uniform torn, his helmet dangling from numbed fingers. A French infantryman. Barely older than 20. His face was grey with exhaustion and mud. His breathing ragged. "Please," he gasped. "Please? I need to hide." They're sweeping the road, machine guns, no one left. Before Amelie could answer, another explosion thundered outside, shaking the walls so violently several of the children screamed. The soldier flinched, grabbing the doorframe to keep himself upright. He looked into Amelie's eyes with a desperation she had seen too many times. Men who had lost their regiments, their hope, their reason to keep running. She nodded. "Come," she said quietly. "Downstairs. Quickly." The soldier followed her toward the cellar steps, limping. Blood soaked through the fabric at his hip. The children made space, watching him with wide, cautious eyes. As the heavy door closed above them, sealing them in darkness except for a single oil lamp, the soldier finally spoke. "My name is Julien Arnaud," he whispered. "And if I stay here, you're all in danger." Amelie felt her stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" Julien swallowed, his voice trembling. "They're not shelling the village. They're hunting me." The children stiffened. The lantern flickered. Somewhere above them, another shell whistled through the air like a falling star. And then the world shook again. The children stiffened. The lantern flickered. Somewhere above them, another shell whistled through the air like a falling star. And then the world shook again. Dust rained from the ceiling in a choking cloud, drifting over their hair and shoulders like grey snow. The youngest boy, Louis, no older than 6, let out a thin, frightened sob and buried his face into Etienne's coat. The soldier's arm tightened around him reflexively, even as he braced his own body against the trembling wall. "Easy, Petit," Etienne whispered, though his own heart pounded like a drum inside his ribs. "It's far enough away. Just noise. Only noise." But they all knew that was a lie. Noise was what came before collapse. A wooden beam above them groaned, warped by the vibrations. Henri looked up at it, then at Etienne, his 12-year-old face drawn with grim understanding no child should possess. "If that one was closer," Henri began. "I know," Etienne cut in softly. Another tremor rolled through the earth, not as violent as before, but enough to make the lantern sway on its hook. Its flame stretched and thinned like it, too, feared what waited outside. Myra, the eldest girl at 15, swallowed hard. Will the cellar hold? Etienne hesitated, just long enough for them all to catch it. He forced a steady expression. It will. It was built strong. Old stone lasts longer than men. Louis whimpered again. But I heard the house fall. A silence followed. Thick, heavy. Etienne's jaw clenched, not from anger, but from the truth curling behind the boy's words like smoke. The house above them had collapsed hours ago. The cellar was all that remained. Etienne knelt, eye level with the children, trying to soften the dread tightening his chest. Listen to me. You're safe as long as we stay quiet, stay together, and stay calm. We wait until the bombardment stops. Then I take you out of here. All of you. Understood? The children nodded, even if none fully believed it. A violent metallic creak sounded from the stairwell, wood warping, shifting, settling. The soldier snapped his eyes upward, and instinctively reaching for the revolver at his hip. There were only 3 bullets left. He didn't want to think about what he might have to use them for. Someone's coming, Henri whispered, barely audible. Etienne held up a finger for silence and moved toward the stairs, each footstep slow and deliberate. The dim lantern glow stretched his shadow long across the stone floor, making him look taller, stronger than he felt. He listened. At first, nothing. Then, a soft scraping. A shuffle of weight. A breath. Not a shell. Not falling rubble. A person. Etienne stiffened. The children shrank behind him. The air seemed to claw at their throats as the footsteps grew clearer, descending one creaking step at a time. Etienne raised the revolver. Qui va là? He called quietly. No answer. He swallowed hard. His voice sharpened. Identify yourself. Now. Still nothing. Only the slow, deliberate footsteps drawing nearer. Henri whispered shakily, "Is it a German?" Etienne didn't know. And that terrified him more than anything. The cellar door, barely hanging on its hinges, shifted as something pressed against it from the other side. The lantern flickered again. Louis whimpered. Etienne took aim. The door creaked open. Just an inch. Then another. Etienne's finger tightened on the trigger. And in the narrow crack, a human eye appeared, reflecting the lantern's trembling flame. Wide. Dark. Filled with terror. Not a soldier. A woman. Covered in dust, hair tangled, face streaked with soot, she stumbled the rest of the way in as the weakened door gave way behind her. She gasped when she saw the gun pointed at her. "Please, don't shoot," she whispered in a voice raw with fear. I have nowhere else to go." Etienne didn't lower the gun right away. Because something behind her caught his eye. Footprints. Fresh ones. Leading down into the cellar. But only hers had arrived. The others had stopped halfway down the stairs. As though someone, or something, was still standing up there in the darkness. Watching. Etienne's blood turned cold. The stairwell yawned above them, black, silent, waiting. The woman trembled where she stood, pressing herself against the wall as if she expected death to strike from either direction. The children huddled behind Etienne, Myra clutching Louis' shoulder so tightly her knuckles went white. "Who was with you?" Etienne asked quietly, the barrel of his revolver never lowering. She shook her head frantically. "No one. I came alone. I swear I came alone." But she was lying. Or terrified. Or both. Etienne took one slow step toward the stairs, his gun angled upward. The lantern behind him cast dim, trembling light that barely reached halfway up the steps. "Stay behind me," he murmured to the children. The woman's breathing turned shallow. "Please, don't go up there." Etienne glanced at her. "Why?" Her eyes filled, not with tears, but with memory. "Because he didn't follow me." Etienne stiffened. "Who?" "My brother," she whispered. The stairs shook. "He told me to run. I heard him scream. I think—" The word died in her throat. Etienne's jaw tightened. If her brother had fallen, the collapse could have crushed him. Or worse, he could still be alive beneath debris, unable to speak. Etienne's instincts warred in his chest. Protect the children. Check the stairs. Ignore the unknown. Face it. He took another step upward. The wood groaned under his boot. He paused. Listened. Wind? No. Not wind. A sound like breath. Wet. Strained. Someone struggling to inhale through dust-filled lungs. "Etienne," Myra whispered. "Don't." He raised a hand to silence her. Another inhale. Another struggle. Whoever was up there was hurt. Badly. Etienne moved one step further, until he reached the spot where the lantern light blurred into darkness. The revolver shook slightly in his grasp, not from fear, but from the sheer tension knotting every muscle. He exhaled slowly and took the final step into the dark. His boot brushed something. A sleeve. Etienne froze. "Mon ami," he whispered. A weak, rasping noise answered him, half breath, half agony. Etienne knelt fast, fingers searching through rubble until they found an arm, warm, trembling. "Hold on," he said urgently. "I've got you." He dug through debris with his free hand, pushing aside dust, shattered plaster, cracked wood. A small cascade of rubble fell away, revealing a pale face coated in grey powder. A young man, maybe 20. Barely older than Henri. One leg pinned beneath a fallen beam. Chest rising in shallow, painful spasms. Not a soldier. A civilian boy. The woman's brother. His eyes fluttered open at Etienne's voice. "Marie!" "She's safe," Etienne whispered. "She's down below. Stay with me." The boy blinked slowly, struggling to stay conscious. Etienne wedged both hands under the beam, testing its weight. Too heavy. Far too heavy. He needed leverage. Or help. Or a miracle. He hissed over his shoulder, "Henri, bring the lantern," slowly. The boy crept up the stairs, legs shaking, holding the lantern with both hands. The warm glow pushed the shadows back, revealing the horrific scene more clearly. The woman, Marie, had followed despite her fear, clinging to the railing. When she saw her brother trapped beneath the beam, she let out a strangled cry. "Etienne, can you lift it?" she begged. "Maybe," he grunted. "But once I lift it, he has seconds before the ceiling above shifts again. We need to pull him free fast." Marie dropped beside her brother, gripping his hand tightly. "Emile, don't leave me. Not like this." The boy coughed weakly. "I'm not going anywhere." Etienne set his jaw. "Henri. When I lift, you and Marie pull him out. Myra, stay at the bottom of the stairs with the little ones." He wrapped both hands under the beam, planted his feet, and pulled. Nothing. He strained harder, muscles shaking, teeth clenched. The beam creaked, rising an inch, then another. "Now!" Etienne gasped. Henri and Marie pulled Emil's arm, dragging his upper body free. Etienne heaved again, lifting the beam higher. A crack snapped above him. The ceiling groaned. "Pull him out!" Etienne shouted. Marie screamed as she and Henri yanked Emile with all their strength. The boy slid another inch. Another? Etienne felt the beam slipping from his grip. Then the entire ceiling shifted with a grinding roar. "Move!" Etienne shouted. Marie pulled with a cry of desperate strength. Emile slid free. Etienne threw himself backward as the beam slammed down, exploding dust into the stairwell with a choking blast. For a moment, there was only silence. Broken, trembling breaths. Dust whispering as it settled. Marie collapsed over her brother, sobbing into his hair. Henri sagged against the wall, lantern shaking in his grip. Etienne lay on the stairs, chest heaving, arms burning. But they were alive. All of them. Emile coughed, a thin, weak sound. He hissed over his shoulder, "Henri, bring the lantern, slowly." The boy crept up the stairs, legs shaking, holding the lantern with both hands. The warm glow pushed the shadows back, revealing the horrific scene more clearly. The woman, Marie, had followed despite her fear, clinging to the railing. When she saw her brother trapped beneath the beam, she let out a strangled cry. "Etienne, can you lift it?" she begged. "Maybe," he grunted. "But once I lift it, he has seconds before the ceiling above shifts again. We need to pull him free fast." Marie dropped beside her brother, gripping his hand tightly. "Emile, don't leave me. Not like this." The boy coughed weakly. I'm not going anywhere." Etienne set his jaw. "Henri. When I lift, you and Marie pull him out. Myra, stay at the bottom of the stairs with the little ones." He wrapped both hands under the beam, planted his feet, and pulled. Nothing. He strained harder, muscles shaking, teeth clenched. The beam creaked, rising an inch, then another. "Now!" Etienne gasped. Henri and Marie pulled Emile's arm, dragging his upper body free. Etienne heaved again, lifting the beam higher. A crack snapped above him. The ceiling groaned. "Pull him out!" Etienne shouted. Marie screamed as she and Henri yanked Emile with all their strength. The boy slid another inch. Another? Etienne felt the beam slipping from his grip. Then the entire ceiling shifted with a grinding roar. "Move!" Etienne shouted. Marie pulled with a cry of desperate strength. Emile slid free. Etienne threw himself backward as the beam slammed down, exploding dust into the stairwell with a choking blast. For a moment, there was only silence. Broken, trembling breaths. Dust whispering as it settled. Marie collapsed over her brother, sobbing into his hair. Henri sagged against the wall, lantern shaking in his grip. Etienne lay on the stairs, chest heaving, arms burning. But they were alive. All of them. Emile coughed, a thin, weak sound. But a sound of life. Etienne forced himself upright. "We need to get back down. It's not safe here." He took Emile under the shoulder. Marie took the other side. Together they helped him descend the stairs. But as they reached the cellar, Etienne paused. The ground rumbled again. Not from a shell. He felt it through his boots, deep, rhythmic vibrations. Heavy. Marching. Many feet. Myra's eyes widened. "What is that?" Etienne's face hardened. "Soldiers," he whispered. and from the direction of the ruined village. Voices rose. Not French. He recognized the harsh cadence instantly. German. They were coming. Closer. Dozens, or maybe more. Etienne extinguished the lantern with a swift motion. In the sudden darkness, he whispered, "Everyone stay quiet." Not a sound. The cellar fell into absolute, breathless stillness. Above them, Boots stopped. Right over their heads. Someone spoke in a low, commanding German voice. The children squeezed their eyes shut. Etienne gripped the revolver. The cellar door above creaked and began to open. The children stiffened. The lantern flickered. Somewhere above them, another shell whistled through the air like a falling star. And then the world shook again. The blast was closer this time, close enough that dust rained down from the rafters in thick grey sheets. A plank snapped somewhere behind them, followed by the groan of a supporting beam giving up the fight after too many winters and too many explosions. Lena threw her arms around both children, pulling them tight. The lantern swung wildly, throwing frantic shadows across the cellar walls, shadows that seemed to twist and leap like startled spirits. "It's okay," she whispered, even though her own heartbeat felt like it might break her ribs. "It's okay. Stay down. Stay with me." Another distant boom. A scream from somewhere in the village. Then silence, heavier than the noise. Daniel forced himself to stand. His legs trembled, not from fear but from the electric knowledge that time was running out. He reached for the cellar door, easing it open an inch to peer outside. The night was no longer a night. It had become a canvas of fire. Orange plumes clawed up the horizon where the granary once stood. Embers drifted through the air like lost fireflies, drifting on currents of hot, dry wind. He closed the door and leaned his head against the wood for a moment, breathing in the cool, musty air of the cellar. He didn't want them to see what was happening. Not yet. "Is it over?" Lena asked behind him, voice tight, hopeful in a way that hurt. Daniel swallowed. "Not yet." She didn't ask anything else. She knew that tone. She'd heard it before, when their father didn't return from the northern road. When the soldiers first marched through the fields. When the doctor said they were out of medicine. The ground shuddered again. A low rumble rolled beneath them, as if the earth itself were shifting in pain. Daniel turned to them, to Lena, to the two terrified children clutching her sleeves, and he realized, with sudden clarity, that this was the moment. The moment he had been avoiding, hoping never to face. He knelt before them. "Listen to me," he said softly, but firmly. "We're going to leave the cellar. We're going to go to the river path. It's safer there, the soldiers don't know it exists." The eldest child, the girl with the small scar on her cheek, shook her head. "But the shells?" "I know. But staying here is now more dangerous." The house groaned again overhead. A beam snapped, loudly this time, and a cascade of dirt fell from the ceiling. Lena looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. "Daniel," she whispered, "we won't make it." He took her hand. "We will. Because we don't have a choice." She stared at him, and for a brief moment he saw the girl who used to chase fireflies with him in the summer fields, long before uniforms. And boots and thunderous guns darkened their world. She nodded. "All right," she breathed. "Let's go." He pushed open the cellar door fully. Night air flooded in, hot, smoky, crackling with distant flames. The sky pulsed with red flashes, like a heartbeat too large to belong to anything human. "Stay low," he said, motioning for the children to follow. "Hold hands. Don't let go, no matter what." They stepped out into the ruined yard. Ash drifted like grey snow, settling in their hair and on their clothes. The apple tree near the fence, the one their mother had planted, was split down the middle, still smouldering. The children whimpered at the sight. Lena squeezed their hands tighter. They moved quickly across the yard, keeping to the shadows, passing what remained of the barn, a pile of charred wood and sparks. Daniel scanned the hilltop constantly, searching for silhouettes, for movement, for anything that meant danger. Then, just when they reached the stone wall and the narrow path that sloped down toward the river, a figure stepped out from behind the ruined shed. Daniel froze. The figure was tall, wrapped in a dark coat, face shadowed beneath a brim. A rifle hung loosely at his side. But he did not raise it. He simply watched them, silent, unmoving, like a ghost waiting for permission to speak. Lena inhaled sharply. But Daniel lifted a hand, gently, signaling the children to stay close. The figure took one slow step forward. "You're headed to the river?" the stranger asked quietly. His voice was rough, cracked by smoke and exhaustion. Daniel nodded once. "Yes." The man looked over his shoulder, toward the blazing horizon. "Good. They're advancing from the east. You don't have long. Why are you helping us?" Lena whispered. For a moment, the man didn't answer. He looked up toward the burning sky, as if searching for something only he could see. "I had children once," he murmured. "A long time ago." "Go." Daniel hesitated, only a heartbeat, then nodded in gratitude. They slipped past him. He did not follow. The river path was narrow, winding between what remained of hedges and stone markers. The roar of battle faded slightly behind them, replaced by the distant rush of water. The children clung to Lena as if she were the last solid thing in the world. And then, through the trees, they saw it, the river glinting under the firelit sky, wide and dark and waiting. Daniel exhaled shakily. "We made it." But Lena shook her head. "No," she whispered. "We survived. But we didn't make it. Not yet." And she was right. The river would carry them downstream, but not away from the memory of this night. Not away from the ghosts that would follow. Not away from the home that burned behind them, or the people they had lost. But it would carry them forward. And sometimes, in the ruins of a world that refused to stay whole, forward was enough. Daniel took Lena's hand. Lena gathered the children close. Together, they stepped into the shadows of the trees and followed the riverbank into the unknown. Behind them, the sky glowed like the last dying ember of a once bright dream. Ahead of them, darkness waited. But it was a living darkness, one that hinted there might still be something on the other side. And so they kept walking. Not because they were fearless, but because they were still alive. And that was reason enough.